Okay, so last video of the night. So remember, I told you that I had an interview panel today, right? Usually I get on here and I'm like, don't do this in an interview, don't do this in an interview, don't do that, right? There were two ladies today that like stood out that made me go, finally, someone prepped for an interview. These two ladies both prepped for today's interview. And not only did they come prepared, they came with calming energy. Their energy was very calm. It wasn't like robotic. It wasn't like it wasn't itchy. It was very calm, and you felt it the minute they walked into the room. And it was so much that it caught my attention, and I was just like, okay. So the first lady, she works in the role already, so she has her own protocols. Remember, I told you, you have to come with your own protocols. You have to come with your own way of doing things. You have to come with your own way. You want to make it to the second interview or get that position, you got to come with something. You can't just be answering questions and when we're asking you, well, what have you done? You're kind of vague with it. You do this every day. You can't be vague with it on an interview because we're seeing if you can do the job. So she came, she was like, I do this, and this. This is how I do it. When they don't do this, I go this way. Then when this happens, I do this. This is what I learned thus far from the bosses that I've had. You know, it was rough, but I learned from it and I grew from it. I was sitting there like this. Well, damn, it was an enjoyable time to talk to this person. And it's like, she's gonna be working on my office, so I'm gonna see her every day. So I'm watching her and I'm listening to her answer the questions, and it was just calm. It wasn't mute or moot, is whatever they call it when it's just no. She had range, she had presence. I loved it. And it's like I was sitting there and I was just like listening to her. And everybody who has an interview with me knows if I ask more questions, if I ask follow-up questions, I like you. So the lady, one of my colleagues, she was just like, yeah, you liked her. I was like, oh my God, I did like her. She is so good. And I didn't like her just because she had good energy. I liked her because she not only had good energy, she had both sides. She had the spiritual, grounded energy where she can take and diffuse situations before they escalate into something crazy. And also, she has the energy of, I gotta get this stuff done. This has to get done. We need to do this. You need to do that. And her reason for wanting the position was a valid reason. I'm not going to go into why, but it was a valid reason. Other times we ask people that question, we're sitting there looking at them like, what made you think that was a good idea to say? She was clear. She was honest. And it was refreshing. It was really good. And I was just like, oh, wow, hopefully lightning will strike twice. And it did. It struck twice at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. She walked in, and the minute she walked in, I looked at her, and the smile and glow on her face, I was just like, oh wow. Because for some reason, a lot of times when people come in, and it might be because you're green and you're scared or you're nervous or whatever. I get that. So I take that into consideration. I was told by my colleagues I need to take that into consideration because I did not in the beginning. They were like, Keisha, you gotta be nicer. I was like, nice? We are filling a position. I don't need to be nice. I need them to be right. They're like, Keisha, you gotta factor in that people are gonna be nervous. And I was like, okay, because I remember me, I hate interviewing. So I know you do get nervous. So I was like, okay. So I changed that aspect of me. So I got a little calmer and nicer. But the young lady that walked in, it was like she came in, confidence walked into the room. And I was just sitting there like, okay, sea level. I was like, okay, C-level. And she walked, talked, and was personable as a C-level. She fit C-level. I'm like, I'm so scared. I'm like, please don't lose these two. She seemed like the type of person that you would find a position for just to have her in your company, just to have her in your agency. She came, remember I tell you gotta have stuff in front of you. She came with her notebook. She came, our folder. She came in her folder. She had her resume. She had the job description that the posting that we had. She had her typed out or printed out questions for us, and these weren't like just rinky-dink questions. It was so intrinsic. I don't know. It was so like out of this like ballpark that I had to be like, okay, I'm sorry, repeat the question. Can you repeat the question for me? That caught me completely off guard. It was thought-provoked questions that needed answers. And she at one point interviewed us. And I sat there and it's like, if I could have gotten up and clapped for her and not looked like I was having favorites, I would have. The answers that she was giving were pinpoint answers. You can tell as another EA when someone's bullshitting. You can tell, because if you don't have a protocol, you cannot fake a protocol. You can't fake a protocol. And she did not. She was like, when this happened, that happened. I did this. When this happened, I did that. And I was just like, okay, C-level, okay, I see you. And it's like, I was very proud of her. I was very proud because that's what I teach my EAs. I'm like, hey, you have to be prepared for the interview. She was taking notes. She was like writing notes. And I was just like, oh, wow, okay. This is really cool because she was a project manager. And I feel executive assistants have to have project management skills. It is a must. You have to have project management. And you'll be like, Keisha, why do I have the project management? Don't I just answer the phones? No, we don't do that. Just do that anymore. They're expecting you to manage their teams sometimes. They're expecting you to be their voice and their extension. So if you don't have project management skills and you don't know you won't be able to manage the people around you because you don't have project management skills. Me, I have to have project management. So I manage the IT guy. I manage the commissioner's driver. I manage the assistants in the office. I manage the commissioner. I manage myself. I manage my house. So you have to have project management skills. And that's not something that you can fake. You can't fake it in an interview, especially when they ask you a question, because Eva came up with the questions. Those questions are like, every time we sit down and have a EA interview panel and Eva comes up with the questions, I sit and I ask myself these questions. And like, if I was interviewing, what would I say? So it's like, that's how good her questions are. So her questions, you cannot dodge these questions. You can tell when you're bullshitting. So I am so pleased to say, two great women. Stay up, stay blessed. Deuces. And I'm out.